Onewheel fans finally got their long overdue updates, and this time they got two brand new models, the Pint X and the GT. This week we're going to take a peek from the other side of the self-balancing electric rideable fence, and I'm gonna let you know what I think of Future Motion's latest and greatest. And I'm going to tell you why I think that they aren't designed for you. Are you ready? Roll the intro. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and click on that bell icon to be notified of new episodes. So Future Motion finally announced their long overdue upgrade to their model lineup, the GT and the Pint X. Both actually represented a significant increase in both range and performance, nearly doubling what the older Gen XR and Pint. That plus a more powerful motor for the GT to further sweeten the deal. With a clang output of 3 horsepower, with the top speed remaining relatively the same at 20 miles per hour for the GT and 18 for the Pint X. By the way, it is about to rain. I can see the thundercloud moving in on the radar. This is a 12-mile ride that I usually do on Saturday. So let's see if I'm going to be able to make it back without getting soaked. So it's going to be a race against the weather. I was not at all surprised that they decided against raising it any further. Considering the number of lawsuits that they have going on, Future Motion likely don't want to expose themselves to any more potential liability if they can help it. By the way, for those of you who are specification obsessed, yes, the GT has a slight bump when it comes to top speed from 19 miles an hour to 20. However, considering that the maximum speed of a Onewheel or any other self-balancing rideable largely depends on the rider's willingness to push the envelope and risk cutout or a nosedive in the case of Onewheel, a 1 miles per hour increase will likely make very little differences in reality. And at this point, I'm sure the electric unicycle riders amongst you are jumping up and down in the back of the room, whining about how slow and underpowered Onewheels really are. And I get the perspective from the EUC side. Wheels with a 30 miles per hour limit is considered to be slow. Onewheel does seem a bit lacking by comparison. However, I get that they're totally different things. The sideways stance, the generally looser ride feel, and most importantly, the much more forgiving learning curve really puts the Onewheel in its own category as compared to the electric unicycle. And Future Motion, being an American company, also has a much more nuanced understanding of who their target customer base are. And I think that both the GT and the Pint X are much better focused product as compared to the wheels we see on the electric unicycle side. For instance, Future Motion have been able to avoid the ever heavier and larger bloat wheel phenomenon that many of the Chinese electric unicycle companies suffer from in pursuit of ever greater performance specification. The veteran Abrams, for instance, is towing the 100-pound mark, actually makes the 35-pound GT looks like an absolute featherweight by comparison. However, that discipline and focus also create its own difficult constraint when it comes to the push for ever greater motor power. You could only squeeze so large of a motor inside that tiny little wheel. And yes, there are a variety of ways of increasing motor power without increasing size, or simply pump more juice or electrical current into the motor. My creation! And I have no doubt that many of those tricks has to be utilized in order to increase the power output what was previously a 750 watt motor. And Future Motion claimed a power output of 3 horsepower, which I suspect is likely peak motor output rather than sustained, since I highly doubt that they are able to somehow squeeze a 2,000 watt motor into that same tiny wheel enclosure. Fine, since I think the goal here wasn't to actually increase maximum speed, so sustained motor output wasn't required. They're just looking for greater safety margin. in which case peak is really all you need to help with pushback when the motor is at its limit. The main upgrade for both of these wheels, however, are range. And here's where I think Future Motion's narrow focus on whom their customer are really pays off. Look at that cloud moving in. This is not looking good for me. I got probably another 8 miles to go. Since I imagine that most casual rider will likely be primarily concerned with how long they can hold off on range anxieties. And that 32 miles range on the GT really represented a huge leap for Onewheel when it comes to performances. It also happened to be twice that of the average American commute of 16 miles each way. Coincidence or marketing? You tell me. I'm sure it crosses many potential buyers' mind. Being able to commute with it makes it a much more compelling buy. It's actually hailing, which I don't mind. I'd rather getting hit with ice pellet than getting soaked while I have lost the race a bit. Alright, there's a gap in the ring. I'm gonna try to take advantage of it. So the Pint X also represented a significant upgrade. It's no longer a fun toy with a tiny battery that quickly run out of charge if you just ride around the block a few times. Instead, it is now essentially an XR squeezed into a smaller and more convenient package, which had always been sort of the promise of what the Pint offered. And you know that Future Motion did an excellent job with both of these wheels, since even the normally disgruntled online Onewheel community begrudgingly positive about both of these two wheels. And in case you're not a hardcore Onewheel rider who obsessively browse online forums, Future Motion hasn't exactly been on the best terms with their hardcore ridership, and much of that animosity came from the fact that they had actively discouraged any sort of aftermarket mod or third-party repair services, which would have been fine if they offer excellent aftermarket support. However, having spoken to a few of the local Onewheel rider, I heard multiple instances of slow and expensive repairs that sometimes failed to actually address the original problem. But you have to give it to Future Motion, whether it be brilliant marketing or that they simply produce an excellent product that is a whole lot of fun to ride. The Onewheel remains the most popular product in the self-balancing radical segment here in the US. Look at that. It looks so gray and moody. As a matter of fact, the only significant complaint I can think of for the new Onewheel is that, man, the GT as a Grand Tour, which in general I think way overused by company and product that has nothing to do with the idea. Like Apple putting Pro on every single product they make. I mean, it's one thing if an auto company decides to add that moniker to their largest and most capable cars or hot rod, but it's quite something else when a micro EV company decide to call their latest wheel with a 30-mile range the Grand Tour Edition. If you consider the equivalent of your regular commuter distance, Grand, my suggestion is that you probably ought to get out of your house a little bit more. Anyhow, with improved torque and significantly better range, both new Onewheel model appears rather compelling. That is until you consider the $400 premium you have to pay over the price of the two original wheels. And I know that value proposition is something that's somewhat difficult to judge, since what may be affordable for you may not be for me. But at $2,200 for the GT, you are now paying what is equivalent to the price of a top-end MacBook Pro or a medium-range e-bike for what will likely remain mostly a toy. In addition, if you have any aspiration for mod and aftermarket upgrade route, both of these new wheels would also likely be far more locked down than their prior models. And finally, there are the weight. Now, electric unicycle, or a bicycle for that matter, are both far heavier than a one wheel. However, they both also could be rode when you're not riding them easily so as to negate their weight. The one wheel, on the other hand, does not offer that option. And although it is lighter, if you do run out of juice, you would also very likely have to hand carry all 35 pounds of it, which significantly limits its practicality and day-to-day use. And speaking of the practical perspective, an electric unicycle offers more range and performances at the same size and about the same price, while an e-bike provides better comfort and cargo capacities. And for both type of PEVs, you have a huge varieties of different models. All right, that didn't work out. You have a huge varieties of manufacturers and models to choose from, while for one wheel, your choices are much more limited. And that for me had always been a problem. Since Future Motion has no real competitor, it likely feels no compelling need to reinvent the wheel, no pun intended. We will likely never see a significant performance upgrade nor a suspension model. And without significant advances with battery technology, given the limitation of size and weight, it is very unlikely for us to see any further significant improvement when it comes to range or performance. Oh my god, it's super windy. When I left the house this morning, it was 65 degrees and sunny, and it is anything but right now. I'm freaking freezing.
5 minutes later.
All right, I had to duck into Essex Market because it was just really cold, and also that my phone and my mic went out of juice. Not a best spot to hang out for a little bit. Oh, and none of that really matters for their intended target audience. And I think if you have done your research and watched this video all the way to the end, or if you already own the one wheel, it's very likely that you ain't who Future Motion is looking for anyway. I think their ideal target. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Yes, sir. Have a good day.
Wow, it's so polite. Crazy day. Look at this. I don't know if you can tell. It was raining and nasty literally 30 minutes ago. And now it's all turned around. Who they like to see, I think, is a casual rider who's looking for something new, slightly adventurous, but isn't too difficult to learn. Someone that doesn't have a lot of free time, but who does have a good bit of disposable income and is willing to make a buy decision on a $2,000 purchase on ads and Christmas shopping list recommendation from magazines alone. And honestly, if you're just looking for a fun toy, both the Onewheel GT and the Pint X are both excellent choices. You wouldn't have to deal with the long wait list, nor the unpredictable release schedule, nor the many quality control and reliability issue that the Chinese micro-electric vehicle company often suffer from. You are no longer buying a bleeding edge piece of tech, but neither do you have to deal with the many issues that often come with that categories of product. Instead, both the GT and the Pint X represent the one-wheel formula, streamlined, refined, and ready for mass consumption. On the other hand, if you are a hardcore one-wheel rider who is just tired of the BS from Future Motion and you're looking for that next new things that will inspire the same tingly excitement you got from when you first picked up a one wheel, boy do I have some interesting fun toys to show you. So what do you think? Are the Onewheel GT and the Pint X the upgrade you've been waiting for, or is it too little and too late for a company that had lost touch with their fan base? Well, that is what the comment section below is for. And you know what? Aha! I somehow managed to trick you into wasting another 15 minutes of your life, but I hope you enjoyed it. Shout out to my supporter on Patreon. Please check out the link in the video description below if you enjoy and like to support my work. And as always, as much as we all love electric unicycle, the only way for us to get better wheel is to grow as a community. So tell your friends and teach them how to ride and get them hooked. Until the next video, thank you.
Doing it well. No, I ain't done yet. Everybody in the club, go to work, club. Everybody in the club, go to work, work. No, I ain't done yet. Lock the chain. My album hit hard when I roll hard, when I roll out. Lock the chain. My album hit hard when I roll hard, when I roll out. Back with the jump on.